Joe Biden has recently done a press conference in which he talked about his response to the Omicron variant of the coronavirus, and he has made his statements in fact that he believes that the winter will involve a lot of death and destruction and zombies and all of that sort of hyperbolic nonsense. And his reasoning for doing this is, well, it's worked in the past, and, well, it has worked in the past. The government has gotten a lot of hay out of using the term public health to justify literally anything they wish to do, and they have done that particularly within the past almost 2 years at this point. And I believe a lot of the credibility that they have built up over the years with that particular strategy has been dissipated by the coronavirus response in particular, and much of the public has actually soured on Joe Biden's coronavirus response. But that's not going to stop him from talking about it, and it's not going to stop me from talking about him talking about it. And so he did, and I am. And now he is saying that the unvaccinated are going to have a winter of death and destruction, a winter is coming, and other stuff to that effect, and saying that, oh, everyone will be fine to go about their holiday things so long as they are vaccinated, wearing 15,000 masks, and making sure that there is a requisite 1,500 feet radius around them, between them and any other person. And if they do that, they will be completely safe from the coronavirus unless you test for it at any given time, in which case you'll have it anyway. Because, well, it turns out that many people are testing positive for coronavirus despite doing everything right. It's not stopping for anyone at all. Whether you're vaccinated, boosted, whether you're wearing double masks all the time and social distancing as much as possible and becoming an antisocial NEET, you will still get coronavirus, and many people have. In fact, most of the people I've seen testing positive for coronavirus are in exactly that situation. And on top of that, one other thing. Most of them don't have symptoms, or if they do, they have the most mild symptoms possible of a cough, and it may be a fever. And really on the maybe there, especially for Omicron, because that's a less virulent version of the disease, it's not as symptomatic for most people. That's according to all of the data that exists for the Omicron variant, and it shouldn't be understated how much of a difference maker that is, but Biden doesn't want to see the numbers go down, and, well, he's not going to get deaths up unless he takes a Hillary Clinton strategy for increasing the deaths surrounding him, and so he needs to go about this some other way, and the best way to do that is, of course, to go through testing, and, well, how he's going to do that is he's going to be shipping out 500 million tests to basically anyone who wants it, and that might seem at first like an altruistic thing to do, that he's simply being kind and virtuous, that he simply wants to know if people are sick. But here's the thing. Do you not know when you're sick? Can you not feel when you have a cough, or when you have a fever, or when all of that sort of stuff is happening to you, when you have a respiratory illness? I mean, I can. Perhaps the Coasties have a bit more trouble with that. Perhaps they don't have as advanced sensing capabilities as most other humans. I wouldn't put it past them, frankly. But at least for most humans, you know when you're sick. And frankly, if you're not sick enough to actually have any specific treatment other than sit down, lay down, sleep a lot, drink water, and basically eat chicken soup for a couple of days, if you have to do anything if you don't have to do anything more specific than that, I don't see why you're testing for a disease at all. If I have a cough, I'm just going to do what I need to do to deal with cough. I don't care whether that cough is coming from COVID-19, whether it be Omicron, Delta, or otherwise, or whether it be from a common cold, which, frankly, that's what it's looking like COVID-19 is rapidly turning into, or anything else. It could be the flu, it could be anything. All I know, it's a respiratory illness, and it's giving me a cough. And I'm going to deal with a cough, rather than trying to deal with anything specific, because, frankly, I don't care. I don't care if it's anything more specific, because I'm not having the sort of symptoms that would justify specific treatment. Because anything I need to do is going to be the normal, routine, what happens when you get sick thing. I don't see the need to do anything different, and frankly, a lot of other people don't see the need to do that either, but they do test for it. And this is the major source of much of the coronavirus panic that you see today. What little of it still exists with so many people being burnt out on it. You're seeing the cases being put front and center to the point where even shock websites and places where they will continually put graphs up in front of you about how terrible the coronavirus numbers are at any given day will now not even show you the deaths. They'll just show you 3 graphs showing you exactly how many infections there are. That's what they're left with, because they don't have anything else to show you. They don't have the death graphs that are going up in a substantial way, despite the fact that now Omicron is taking up 73% of all cases, and the cases have spiked in much of the country. They still don't have the sort of deaths that they would expect from that sort of thing. And let me tell you, as someone who was tracking the deaths for a while at the beginning of the pandemic, before I just got bored with it, these deaths came pretty quickly. It wasn't like we had to wait 2 months and then suddenly someone finally died of coronavirus. It was within a couple weeks, if even then. It was within a couple, really like a week a week and a half is when you had the first deaths happening with coronavirus. I don't know whether they were the Chicago shooting victims or something like that. But hey, there is a couple of deaths that are being attributed to Omicron, particularly in the UK. Whether that's with or from Omicron, I have no idea. But the fact that it took about a month from this thing being found to a death being attributed to it is frankly fairly impressive on its own, and shows exactly how little symptoms this particular version of the disease has. And on top of all of that, people are seeing in the government and in the corporate media that there is going to be a rollback effect. And this is something I have been predicting for over a year at this point, particularly with regard to masks, that eventually people would come back to the mask studies, which frankly are just glorified computer models, and they will say, well, actually, there is no evidence that masks are functional. And the first domino on that particular train has now begun to fall, because a CNN analyst has now come out and said it directly, that cloth masks are just fashion and don't actually function. Now, of course, this particular CNN analyst then couched it in, well, you should be wearing surgical masks and N95s and all that sort of stuff instead of cloth masks, because cloth masks are so much worse. But functionally, cloth masks and surgical masks have the same problems as the other. There's nothing functionally different between the two. The only difference really being that cloth masks are more reusable, but only if you actually wash them. If they get more dirty, then and you continue to use them, of course, they're going to be disgusting for other reasons and ineffective for those reasons, and even detrimental to a large extent, even beyond just the breathing problems. But surgical masks, which are disposable, do not have that problem to the same extent. Still do, just less so, because you aren't using them for months on end. But functionally, when you talk about the actual fibers of the cloth as compared to the surgical masks, they're fairly comparable, on top of the actual seal you get, which is to say the seal you don't get, for both of these sorts of masks, and other such things to that effect, they're functionally the same. And so, slowly, the dominoes are going to start falling down on these things, especially as you start to see the psychological effects that are happening, particularly with children, who are now being socialized to expect that people just don't have mouths or noses. And yeah, that was a good idea. Really, wearing a mask is just not acceptable in public. Don't do it. And I think that's a sort of non sequitur there, but hey, if you are wearing a mask still, stop. Even if it's mandated in wherever you're at, just stop. There's no reason to continually adhere to these policies, which are now even being cited as simply non-functional. They even by people in CNN, corporate legacy media. That's the point where we're getting to. And this will trickle back into the Biden administration. I wouldn't be surprised if within the next few weeks, the Biden administration starts saying that cloth masks are completely ineffective and that you should only be using surgical masks or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised at all, because that's exactly the sort of response that we've had all the way through this. And really, it's going to start trickling back all the way. There have been other things to that effect that I can't really talk about with regard to the treatment for the disease that we will not mention in this particular sentence. Similar things that I won't mention specifically for YouTube, but let it be known that those things are being pushed back as well. Those claims are slowly being shown to not exactly be accurate. And that's where I'm going to leave you guys off. If you enjoyed that video, do subscribe down below and check me out on other platforms. I'm on BitChute, I'm on Brighteon, I'm on Rumble, I'm on Odyssey, I'm on all of those places. I'm also on Minds, Gab, and Getter. If you want to check out some text posts over there, you have all of those links down in the description to go check out. I suggest you do. I'm KelKidman. This has been Breaking on the Daily. See you later.